Hi everyone, my name is Avery Fessler and I am here to teach you a little bit about the eye. So as we can see on our picture on our left, that is our friend the eye, or if we want to use the Latin name, Dubia bentonia madagascarensis. Uh, so if we go a little bit further into that classification and break it down a bit more, we can see that the eye is part of kingdom Animalia, of course. It's also part of phylum Chordata, which means that it has a backbone. It's in the class Mammalia, so it has fur and the females have mammary glands. And it's in the order Primate. And there is no way you can convince me that they aren't at least a little bit related to Dobby the elf. I think Dobby is part eye. They're distantly related, not so distantly related. The resemblance is uncanny. So the morphological characteristics of the eye include that they're about 4 pounds. So as we can see in the picture right here, this is your eye compared to a 6-foot tall human. They're pretty small, 4 pounds, not a whole lot. Some of their key characteristics are these really sharp incisors that continue to grow throughout their life. And in the video later, we'll see them use those incisors to hunt for insects. They also have these really, really large ears, and those also come in handy when they hunt, again, in the video later on. Their main feature that I want to talk about, and we'll go into in depth later on, is this grub hunting finger of theirs. So they have a very specially designed middle finger that's used to hunt for and kill their insect prey. But again, don't want to spoil too much of that. We'll get into that later on. In terms of habitat and lifespan, these guys are from Madagascar. They can only be found on the island of Madagascar, and they tend to spend their lives up in the canopy. They can come down onto the ground, and they will occasionally, but really they prefer the safety of the canopy. As you can see, this guy is here hunting up in the canopy. And the eyes typically live about 20 years. In terms of obtaining energy, these guys are omnivores just like us, but they mostly eat grubs, unlike us. In addition to grubs, though, they also will sometimes supplement their diet with some nuts, some tree nectar, and certain types of fungi. And as we can see in the picture here, our friend the eye is snacking on a nut. Key social behaviors for the eye. So these guys are nocturnal. They hunt at night. They are built to function at night. They're also solitary animals. They're very territorial. The males have a very large territory compared to the females, but still, female territories never overlap, male territories never overlap. There will be some females in a male territory for reproductive purposes, but generally these guys are only seen alone. It would be extremely unlikely that you'd catch a group of eyes out in the wild. In terms of reproduction, these guys can breed at any time of the year, and they're going to nurse their young until they're about 7 months old. It was found that in captivity, the young will stay with the mother as long as they're able to, and in captivity, that can be for several years. But in the wild, it's found that about 7 months of age, that's when the mothers say, you're on your own, and leave their little ones to fend for themselves. Now, in terms of conflict with humans, these guys tend to have a lot of them. For one, the eyes are considered a pest to plantations. They eat some plantation crops like mangoes and lychee. But the big one is that they're considered a bad omen. They're considered a symbol of the devil. And so locals will often kill these guys on sight. It's said that if they look at you, that's going to be bad luck. And if they point their finger at you, it means you're going to die. So people took this superstition and ended up killing off a large population of the eyes. In terms of global status, like I mentioned, these guys are unfortunately endangered due to the human overhunting of them. They have made their way onto the endangered list. There's only about 100 of them left in the wild. That's an estimate from 2020. And there's about 30 of these guys in captivity. So not a whole lot in the world in general, but also not a whole lot in human care. And again, they're on this endangered list because of the conflict they've had with humans, because of that bad omen status they received. Now, new research was one of my favorite things to explore about the II because I found a research group that had looked into the II and found that they had this pseudo-thumb. So, like the pelvic bone in a whale, the IIs have the remnants of a sixth digit. So there's no longer an actual sixth finger there, but it looks like at some point they had a functioning sixth finger and then had no need for it, so it's kind of, diminished and now it's not able to be used. But this opens some really interesting doors for exploring common ancestors with us and other primates, and also just kind of looking at where that sixth finger developed along the tree, and where it dropped out. What species had this at some point, what species didn't. Because if it's found in the II, I feel like it would be likely that you could find a similar pseudo-thumb in some other common ancestor we have, or some other primates even. So this was really interesting to see and kind of connect back to what we were learning early on in the class. Moving on to the special feature of the II. So I've mentioned it a couple times, but they have this grub hunting finger, or their finger of death, because as I said, it's said that if they point their finger at you, you're going to die soon. But these guys, if we look at the x-ray on the left, you can see that they have 4 fairly normal digits. And then this middle one is really, really skinny. There's not a whole lot on it. So when you see it on their actual hand, it looks very skeletal, very creepy. And then they've got this really small hook at the end that they use for hunting grubs. And we'll see that live in action in the video next. But so yes, their special feature has got to be this weird finger that they've got, their finger of death and their grub hunting finger. And you can see with this guy, this one finger is much skinnier, much longer than the others. It's specially built just for hunting grubs.
This is the II, a kind of lemur found only on the island of Madagascar. Local legends cast it as a demon, a creature that can kill just by pointing a finger. The truth is more natural than supernatural, but they're right about the finger. To find its prey, it uses a multi-purpose digit. The changes in sound build a mental map of hollow channels inside. It cups its ears to gather the slightest vibration that could signify something to eat, like a grub. Sharp incisors rip away the bark. Its bony middle finger changes roles from a scanner to a scraper. It claws in and out of gaps, enlarging the hole. The grub doesn't know what the II is, but it does know what it means. Death, if it can't wriggle away. The II locks in. The finger transforms into a hook. A sharp fingernail impales the grub. It's dragged up, out, and into the II's mouth.
So as you can see, the II is a pretty scary creature, especially if you're a grub. But I really loved learning about this animal. It was super fun, super interesting. They're definitely a really, really cool animal with some really uniquely adapted adaptations for life. Here are the sources I used to make this video. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed it.